Guys, and welcome to the second set of your video notes. I had several requests to meet my puppy, so I'm going to let y'all meet my dog today. But first, let's take care of what we need to do first. So we're going to do Chapter 5, Section 2, Life in Ancient Egypt. And it matters because all the ancient Egyptian pharaohs were all powerful rulers, and they're going to build a gigantic, sturdy pyramids and a great dynasty. So before we get to the video notes, I want to introduce y'all to Zoe. Zoe is a little dog, and let's see if she'll see her here. I'll say hi, Zoe. All right, so Zoe does a few little tricks. Turn around. Turn around. Yes, look at you. Sit. Yes, good girl. Down. Yeah. Okay, this is my favorite one she does. I don't know if she'll do it. Up. Oh, no, up. Oh, she's turning. She's turning around and around. You go up. Yes, good girl. Anyway, so I wanted to introduce you to Zoe. I had several of you who asked me about her and several who wanted to see her. So sit, drop down. Yes, stay. Good girl. All right, here's my favorite trick she does. Ready? Sit. Wait. Sit. Wait. Wait. Get it. Oh, she didn't wait very long, but she got it. Okay, so let's get to the rest of the video notes here. Let Zoe have the rest of her dinner, a little snack there. Okay, so we want to talk about the early Egyptian society and what it looked like to live there in their, what it was about their social pyramid a little bit. Oh, let's move me over here out of the way. So here's our timeline, and here is the beginning of when it begins to settle in 5000 BC all the way down to 750 BC when Cush is actually going to conquer Egypt. Guys, do y'all see how long that is? Remember, same side subtract? That is 4,250 years, right? So that's really a long time before they even get conquered. And Egypt is still a strong place today. So in terms of history, where we're at, we are like right here where this little past 3000 BC, about 2600 BC. So that's where we are in history, not where we are right now. Us personally, we're in 2019, but where we are in history. Okay, so there we go. So around 2700 BC, the third dynasty is going to rise to power. And the Egyptians believe that this pharaoh that rises to power is both a god and a king. He's both. And so he gets special powers that come with that and a lot of respect for that. So we talked about Menes wearing the double crown. You can see him here. Each dynasty had a different crown, and so as they progress forward, they get more gold, and they have more things to make the crown out of, and they get more prestige. And so things change a little bit, but they keep that scepter and they keep that eye and right there in their hand. Let's see. So they keep the same regal or royal looking things. But here's Menes and like his double crown, remember, red and yellow for both uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. And the Pharaoh had absolute power. So if he said it, it was true. If he said night is day, then night is day. If he said the sun is the moon, then the sun is the moon. And he had absolute power of everything. And I don't know if you've seen Spider-Man or not, but one of the things that Spider-Man gets in one of the pieces of advice is that he gives is that if you have absolute power, you have a lot of power. With great power comes great responsibility. So if there was a flood that was disastrous, that was the Pharaoh's fault. If there was a war that was successful, that was the Pharaoh's good. That was praise for him. That was on his side. If there was famine in the land, that's the Pharaoh's fault. If there was a bountiful harvest that year, that's the Pharaoh's praise. So he would get praise for good and bad, depending on what happened in society. And so they believe that he is at the top of that pyramid. Now, the gods are above that, but the gods don't get on such pyramid because they're not human, right? And so they're gods in their religion, so they don't get on the social part. So anyway, that is it for Egyptian society. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you got to meet Zoe.
All right, just a second there. All right, hey guys, Mr. Kennedy here again for your hot question. So let's go ahead and have that hot question ready. Listen to my instructions on this hot question because although it's usually 3 to 5 sentences, this hot question is going to be a little bit different. So here we go. So in the graphic organizer below, lists 3 things that a pharaoh in ancient Egypt might be praised for and 3 things that they might be blamed for. So think about good and bad events, both natural and man-made, that might affect an entire country. So this hot question is going to be a little bit different. You can do bullet points for this one. So 3 things that a pharaoh would be praised for and 3 things that they might be blamed for. You guys can thank us, your teachers, for this hot question by maybe supplying myself, Miss Hodges, and Miss Tickle with some chocolate, because we gave you guys gummy worms, so I think it's our time for some chocolate. So please answer this hot question now. All right, so now we're going to move on to the social hierarchy. So we've seen this pyramid before from our last chapter, and you'll notice some things that you already recognize with this social pyramid in the social hierarchy. So let's take a look at this, and remember, be filling this in kind of as we're going along. So by about 2200 BC, Egypt had about 2 million people living in their empire. That's a lot of people. The upper class lived in elegant or really nice homes and wore fashionable clothes and jewelry, and they would dress very nicely, but only the upper class. The family was the most important group in Egyptian society. And actually, women had more rights than any other civilization. Women could own property, and they bought and sold goods, and they also served as priests. So looking at our social hierarchy pyramid here, you'll notice that the gods are kind of up there, but on the social hierarchy, we have the pharaohs, followed by the priests and nobles, so the people that go with their religion, as well as kind of the upper class. Then once again, we have those words like artisans, merchants, craftspeople, and scribes. So should be familiar with these words. So people that made things with their hands and also did some of the language that we're going to learn about in this chapter. Then you're going to be followed by the farmers and herders down there, so people that take place in their agriculture. And then down at the bottom, once again, we have those unskilled workers and slaves. So there you have it for your social hierarchy pyramid. Bye, guys.
Okay, now toggle through to your.
Okay, guys, so I just want to make sure before we move on to the next slide that you guys have filled in all of the information on this social hierarchy. Remember, this is filling it in, and guess what, guys? You could put this on your grapes too, okay? Social hierarchy. Okay, now we're going to move on. Religion. Just like Mesopotamians were polytheistic, Egyptians were polytheistic too. They believed in many gods. That means more than one. They built pyramids, which were tombs for the Old Kingdom pharaohs. The religion focused on the afterlife. It is considered a happy place. So, one thing I want to clear up for you is that most people seem to think that a pyramid is like a ziggurat, and it is not, okay? A pyramid was built as a tomb for the pharaoh. So as soon as a pharaoh came into, basically, I guess you could say, ruling or office, he would start the construction of a pyramid, which would become his tomb when he's no longer alive. So it is a burial place. This is not a place to go worship. This is a place for them to rest in their afterlife. And the reason that they focused on the afterlife is because it was their happy place. They were healthy. They were happy. They didn't have any more problems. So that pyramid served as that sacred place for them to be buried. Both rich and poor filled the tomb with clothes, food, and treasures for the Ka, which is the spirit in the afterlife. So the pharaohs would have their possessions buried with them. Sometimes they'd have their children buried with them if they were no longer living. They would have clothes, shoes, gold, furniture, toys, beds, anything that was a possession of theirs that they felt would help them in the afterlife. They had it buried in the pyramid with them. And before they were put inside the tomb, the Egyptians went through the process called mummification. So that is where they embalm and preserve the body for the afterlife. The body goes through, I believe it's a 70-day process. Is that right, Miss Hodges? Yes, it's a pretty long process of basically they remove a lot of organs. I know the brain comes out of the nose, too. And then yes, they put them in the canopic jars to sort of hold on to their organs and preserve them. And then they do a process with salt, dry out the body, then they wrap it in cloth and embalm and preserve that body before it is buried in the tomb. Okay, so here's a very colorful, good picture of the process of mummification. They're wrapping them in the cloth. And I wanted you to see a picture of what the inside of a tomb would actually look like. A lot of people think that it's just big, empty, hollow place that people could walk into and visit, and it's actually not. It is full of the brick, and then they created sort of tunnels, and what they called them were shafts where people could walk through. So any of these straight lines right here that you see, these are shafts, and then they would have chambers here. So I'm circling a chamber. This was the king's chamber. So this is where the pharaoh was buried, and then the pharaoh's wife, if he chose to have her buried in there, she would be buried right there. And then they have ones that go further down that maybe would have stored some of their gold or some other pricely expensive possessions. So hopefully that cleared up any misconceptions that you'd have about a pyramid. It is not a place to worship. It is a place for burial and for the afterlife of the pharaohs. That is all for me, folks. I'm out of here. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye.
Please say the bell in there.
It is.
6 period. Oh.
It's still recording. Did I get it right?
Dun, dun, dun,
No.
dun, dun,
Can you
dun,
stop
dun,
this
dun.
thing from recording?
You have to select that one, and then you do that one.